A few episodes ago, we focused on the challenges that virtual selling is having on seemingly the entire B2B distribution market. But at a higher level, it's always worth examining the greater sales process itself, regardless of current selling conditions. In this episode, I talk with Justin Roff-Marsh, who is the founder and president of Ballistix, a firm that focuses on providing sales process engineering, which aims to reorient the traditional sales process to make it more efficient. Justin is the author of The Machine, a radical approach to the design of the sales function, and he thinks the fundamentals of the sales process for many distributors should be upended. All right, Justin, in a nutshell, what do you see as what is wrong with the traditional approach to sales?
Well, I think it's interesting you started with COVID because COVID has, in my opinion, shined a light on problems with the sales function, the design of the sales function that have existed for a long time. I think the core problem is that sales functions are not productive, but the problem's much worse than it appears. It's probably truer to say that most organizations simply don't have a sales function in any meaningful sense. They have a lot of salespeople, but the salespeople are too busy performing operational tasks to actually get around to selling. So if we're interested in growth, then unless it's an extremely large organization, growth is going to come from winning new accounts or selling new categories of business to existing accounts. And that requires, the kind of outreach, talking to strangers and having difficult conversations with existing customers that salespeople in the traditional sales functions simply don't get to do. Salespeople are not selling. Salespeople are busy performing customer service, being project managers, doing administrative work, so busy that they simply don't have time to sell. Most salespeople have very, very little practice at selling. So that's the core problem, and it's a structural problem. It's not that salespeople have the wrong intentions. It's simply that salespeople operate in an environment that constrains them to operate the way that they operate. They don't have the degrees of freedom that allow them to pursue, to allocate meaningful time to pursuing new business.
All right. Well, you've covered the problem. So what do you see now as the better approach that sales organizations like distributors should adopt?
Well, my first advice is don't start by thinking about what do we do to salespeople. Where we need to start is by fixing the nomenclature. So what do we mean by the word sales in the first place? Do we use the word sales to refer to the grab bag of activities that a typical salesperson performs in a typical day? I mean, that's the conventional lazy approach. Or do we want the word sales to mean something specific? Now, if you're at the helm of an organization that's expected to grow, it should be fairly obvious that for you, the word sales should mean something more specific. And my suggestion is that the word sales should refer to whatever activities need to be performed in order to win new accounts and sell new categories of business to existing accounts. Now, if we think about, well, how does a salesperson contribute to that? There's a specific activity that salespeople are able to perform and generally keen to perform that other folks in the organization are less able and less keen to perform, and that is selling conversations, talking to strangers, or having the more difficult conversations with existing customers, convincing them to buy stuff from new categories. And in my opinion, that class of activities is the only activities, or is the only class of activities that should be titled with the word sales. Everything else should be referred to as not sales. In other words, operations. So processing orders, not sales, it's operations. Generating quotes, not sales, operations. Designing solutions, operations. Managing accounts, operations. And accounts like an annuity. In the old days, if you sold a mortgage working for a bank, it was up to you to go and collect the payments. But nowadays we understand that the sale of an annuity can be separated from the management of that annuity. So it's ridiculous, the idea that salespeople manage accounts. So that should go to operations too. Everything should go to operations other than the pursuit of new business. Now, the challenge to achieving this is that in pretty much every organization we encounter, you need a fairly significant restructure of each of the operational departments that's going to be a recipient of these new tasks, because they're not structured to perform them. Typically, customer service teams are under-resourced, poorly managed, and can't keep up. Engineering teams don't have the capacity to design solutions and to generate proposals at the rate necessary in more complex environments for salespeople to be competitive. So engineering needs to be re-engineered. Marketing departments don't understand how to generate opportunities to demand, and are used to operating in this push environment where they spend a bunch of money, generate as many ops as they possibly can, and push them to sales. Whereas our message to them is, no, marketing should not be structured this way. It should be a pull environment. The job of marketing should be to replenish salespeople's opportunity queues every single day, so that salespeople come to work and there's nothing for them to do other than have selling conversations all day long. So it's fairly easy to see how, if you can achieve that end state, the end state I've just described, it's going to result in a fast growing organization, assuming you have product market fit.